Welcome to another discussion about, well, video game storefronts. Valve, once again, is in the limelight alongside some new friends. Ooh, spicy. We have Epic Games stepping up to the mantle. So, Metro Exodus, a game that is sort of one of those, it's relatively niche but very popular in that niche game titles, has recently announced on the 28th of January, I do believe, they announced, hey, yeah, we're going to be exclusive on the Epic Games Store, and the internet kind of had a bit of a meltdown for a number of reasons, some of them good, some of them not so good in my opinion, and we'll go over a little bit here and there about the Epic Games Store, about Metro, and about the reaction as well amongst the gaming communities. First things first, with Metro, you got to understand that it releases on February the 15th, I do believe, and the announcement was made January 28th about where it's going to be sold, and that's a little bit shitty. Like, there's no way around that. 2 weeks before release, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to be exclusively sold here on the Epic Game Store and not on Steam. Well, that's a little bit last minute for a lot of people's taste. It's not really the biggest deal in the world. The only people who, I'd say rightfully, could really be super angry about that are people who, for some reason, are morally opposed to the Epic Game Store for whatever reason. And two, people who have like, oh, well, I saved up specifically. I sold all my Steam stuff to get $60 of Steam credit, and now I can't use it, and now I can't buy Metro. Oh, dash it all. So yeah, maybe those people could be rightfully kind of angry about it, but at the other end of the spectrum, okay, you've got to download another launcher, and that seems to be the main complaint that people have. Is, oh, I have to download yet another launcher. At least this one isn't just for a single specific game title, right? This is actually going to be a storefront trying to compete legitimately with Steam, and there's a number of games on there that I myself are kind of interested in. Hades in particular looks pretty cool, made by the same guys who made Bastion and Transistor. Those are superb games, so I kind of want to take a look at that as well myself. But yeah. Like, the main thrust of the complaint is, oh, well, I have downloaded Origin and Uplay and Battle.net and Steam, and I don't want to download another one. And, well, unfortunately, that's the way it's going to be if you want to play this game. And, honestly, downloading the Epic Game Store should not feel like a huge burden. It's probably not that huge in terms of hard disk space, and at least it is, like I said, a storefront that's going to go over multiple publishers, so hopefully it's going to be at least worth the download in the future. The second complaint that I heard was that, oh, well, the Epic Game Store doesn't have a returns policy. Not true. It actually did introduce a returns policy literally in January 11th, I think it was introduced, and they have made it literally the same as Steam's. So it's like the 2 weeks or the 2 hours. So 2 weeks from purchase if you haven't touched it, and if you have played it for less than 2 hours, you get a no questions asked refund if you want to refund the game. If you want to refund the game after that point, you have to send off to the support staff, and that could be the problem as well. Epic Game Store, from what I've heard, bits and pieces, doesn't have the greatest support staff at the moment. They're still building that infrastructure up, so you're probably going to be left a little bit in the dark if you have any problems. Yeah, support staff is sort of one of those things. I mean, Valve, generally, Steam doesn't have great support staff either, so the bar is pretty low. In fact, weirdly enough, the best support I've heard is Battle.net has very good support staff. Origin has extremely good support staff, I've heard. Of all places, right? Origin sort of, it seems to be actually a reasonably good piece of software. It just smells a little bit like fish, because EA's involved, so it's just kind of like, ew. It works, it's fine, doesn't seem that resource intensive, but still it's kind of ew, because it's EA, and you don't really want it on your PC. It's a strange one, that. The other reason I see people upset about the Epic Game Store is always a fun one to me, which is that, oh, it's partially owned by Tencent, or Tencent's involved in some way, and it's like, well, Tencent, if you aren't aware, is a Chinese, basically dystopian megacorp in our new cyberpunk future that owns a huge amount of the gaming sphere. It owns Riot Games, it has shares in, it had shares in Vivendi, I think it still has shares in Blizzard Activision, has shares, I think, in EA as well, it has shares in, like, everything you can imagine. Tencent is, like, slowly taking over the entire world. It is definitely a dystopian nightmare corporation coming to take you away at some point. And so, yeah, like, people are afraid of Tencent's involvement in the Epic Game Store and might be morally opposed to giving Tencent money, in which case, best of luck to you in the gaming sphere. I recommend trying to vote in your next political sphere to try and do something about Tencent in the long term, because honestly, not buying stuff from the gaming sphere is going to be a bit of a tough one. I don't think Tencent's going anywhere anytime soon. I think the bigger question that people should be asking is, why are developers doing this? Why are developers moving to the Epic Game Store? And the simple reason is this. It is because it is competition. The Epic Game Store actually set itself up to compete with Valve, and Epic Games can do that. Fortnite made like $2.8 billion last year. They can absolutely reinvest that into dominating the PC gaming space with a storefront, similar to how Valve reinvested all the finances they've made out of Half-Life and Counter-Strike and all the stuff that they've been releasing into, oh, well, now we can make Steam and build Steam up. Steam was a slow grower and did definitely actually save PC gaming. Like, I myself even feel a little bit like, oh, Steam is what made PC gaming survive, right? PC gaming was on its last legs. There were tons and tons of sort of articles and things being written at the time about how PC gaming was dead, how console gaming was the future, and how no one was making anything on PC. And then Steam came along, and slowly but surely Steam built up a storefront that was accessible, it was easy to use, distributed well. It started out so well. Gabe made a famous quote that I absolutely love, which is that piracy is the problem of distribution, because people will pirate things if they can't get it easily, and they can get it easier from the pirates. So basically he set up Steam to compete against pirates and still sell you products, and what do you know, it worked. Now Epic Games has come along and they are competing against Steam. The reason why developers are moving away from Steam is because, well, Epic Games just offers more money. Basically, Valve take a 30% share of your profits and Epic Games take a 12% share of your profits. Now, as it is right now, I would agree that probably putting your product on Steam will net you still more money as a developer. Basically, you will see more sales, and therefore that 70% will be larger than the, quick maths, 78%? 88%? 88%. Don't do maths while recording, people. It always goes badly. The 88% of whatever you'd earn on the Epic Game Store, simply because the market share is smaller. But I think this is a long-term strategy. I think Epic Games is simply courting developers and trying to get as many of them as possible onto the platform. Epic Games has already distributed itself hugely, absolutely hugely, to a massive number of people through Fortnite, and honestly, the people who install Fortnite, a good portion of those probably haven't even installed Steam. Like, there is probably a good chunk of people that don't have Steam installed. So, 10 years down the road, and like, this is, I think, where Epic Games is thinking, not like, oh, right now, well, people are upset because Metro is exclusive. No. Epic are thinking 5 years, 10 years down the line. Those guys will have grown up playing more and more and more games, and if Epic Games can provide them with a storefront that they can buy stuff from, well, they're going to buy it through the Epic launcher. And so it's definitely something that I think Valve need to be worried about, and this, at the end of the day, should be good for the consumer. Namely speaking, Valve need to be concerned. Now, what annoys me, and what nobody seems to be talking about, this is where I get frustrated. What I would love is to see that the savings that the developer makes return to the consumer. So let's say that a game, oh god, I'm going to have to do more maths. Bear with me here. So let's say Valve release a game for $60 on Steam. I brought up a calculator, so let's make that into a percentage. $60 divided by 100, and then times 30. So Valve will take $18 from each sale. Makes sense, right? Pretty simple maths. What I would love to see is, let's see the difference. So 0.6 times 12 gives me $7.2. So the difference would be 18 minus 7.2. which oftentimes results in $10.8. What I would love to see, for example, is if they sold Metro for $60 on Steam and sold it for $10 on Epic, right? Therefore, the savings are now given to you, the consumer. Oh, wonderful. And that gives you a huge incentive also to make, or maybe, they sell it for $55. You get it $5 cheaper on the Epic Store, rather than doing exclusivity deals. That, to me, would be the ideal world. The thing is this, exclusivity deals are going to happen, and the longer Steam sort of digs in its heels and says, no, we sell for 30%, the more ground I think Epic will gain. And this is the thing. People will slowly be swayed over as certain games get picked up, and this is why I think Exodus or Metro Exodus got picked up by the Epic Game Store. It very much reminds me of when Bayonetta got picked up by the Wii U of all consoles. Nintendo picked up Bayonetta, right? Weird game for Nintendo to get, but the market shares are completely different. Basically, the people who are going to buy Bayonetta are completely different from the people who are going to buy Mario, or largely different from the people who are going to buy a Mario game. So they get this new market that they wouldn't get before. And I'd say something similar happens with Fortnite and Metro Exodus. Very similar, very different games in tone and in player base. Metro is played by old Russians looking for a grisly time, and Fortnite is played by 10-year-olds looking for a new dance emote, right? It's very, very different. But if they can even claw in some of those players and then continue to find products that they want to buy, well, then Epic have suddenly opened up a new market space that they didn't have before and have taken something away from Steam. Steam is honestly in trouble, but Steam has needed a competitor for absolutely ages, and I think this is where I want to end on. Don't discard the Discord store either. I think the Discord store is a sneaky one because Discord is a program that has been installed by tons and tons and tons and tons of people in the PC gaming space, and if they fill it with good products for good prices and can incentivize devs to do the same thing, to sell on the Discord store like Epic are doing, they could actually be absolutely huge in like 5 years' time. Again, none of this is going to happen overnight, none of this is going to be quick, but the PC gaming market space has just exploded, basically. It has just turned into this brand new shiny world where, okay, well, you can probably buy some stuff on Steam, but Epic's probably going to have a few things for you at some point. Discord might even have a few things for you, and yes, you're going to have to install the Epic store, but honestly, if that's your best excuse, I think at that point you just want to sort of take a look and go, why really don't I want to install this? Is it just because it's associated with Fortnite and I don't like it? Is it just because you don't want to deal with the hassle of you probably wouldn't even have to open it up. You probably just have to double click Metro Exodus if you have a shortcut in your start menu or something, and then it will open up anyway, and then it will just open the game straight away. Or what? It just seems such a flimsy excuse to me that surely there's something underlying that. Surely it's, I just don't like Epic, I just don't want to do it, I just like Steam and I wish everything was on there. And in which case, if that's your argument, it's not really a good one. It's just not. I wish everything was on Steam. It's just asking to get rinsed as a consumer. It's asking for trouble down the line. Surely you want lower prices. Surely you want better deals for you. And the best way to do that is through competition, especially when the competition is both competing on the same platform, something that Microsoft and Sony don't actually have to deal with once one dominates the market. Steam and Epic, they need to go at each other's throats constantly, and that should be only good for you. There is one final thing I want to touch on. I saw someone, I was reading a Twitter thread, and someone said, oh, this is also exclusive dealing, which is technically illegal. I don't think it is. Exclusive dealing basically refers to when whereby a retailer or wholesaler is tied to purchase from a supplier on the understanding that no other distributor will be appointed or receive supplies in a given area. Basically, exclusive dealing is when you can only deal with one other person as a distributor. So, if you sell, if I as a game developer can only ever sell on the Epic Store, that would be exclusive dealing. And that would be bad for me because then the Epic Store could dictate whatever deal they want to me without having to be pressured by market forces, basically, capitalism stuff. This isn't happening here. That's not the case. Epic could sell on Steam. They could sell themselves. They could sell on Good Old Games. They could sell on Discord. They could sell wherever the hell they want. They went to Epic because Epic offered them a better deal. And that's simply that, right? That is capitalism at work, basically. So yeah, it's not exclusive dealing, it's not anything like that, it's just raw capitalism. And hopefully, at the end of the day, the hope is that it will drive prices down. I don't think it will, though, and that's probably what people should be angrier about. Alright guys, thanks for watching to the end. I've been Josh's one voice amongst many, and I'll see you next time. Toodles.